Pigeons are the birds with the most tarnished reputations. A rat with feathers is a stupid creature, a carrier of contagion, a garbage bird, a feathered vandal. Pigeons are annoying, they get underfoot, beg for food, land on the heads of tourists. Sometimes they are the cause of airplane crashes. It is because of pigeons, public utilities have to constantly clean innocent monuments. And in China, they are generally eaten by 100 million tons. And this is no joke. With the light brush of Picasso, pigeons have become symbols of peace. In fact, pigeons are quite aggressive birds. Many people who have pigeons at home either end up owning them by accident or pick up the chicks and start caring for them. It is noticed that as they get older, pigeons can exhibit aggressive behavior, especially the males. This is due to imprinting, whereby they perceive humans as a competitor or even a threat. They may peck and bite even their owners, perceiving him to be a pigeon, or begin to think of himself as a human. In case you didn't know, pigeons are great at memorizing faces for life. Be careful. Competition between pigeons can occur for territory, food, and females. Sometimes their aggressive behavior may be inexplicable. People do not always like to be neighbors with such hooligans. In many European cities, there are special ways to regulate the number of pigeons. First, it is forbidden to feed them. Sometimes this is punishable by a fine, which can reach up to 5,000 euros. In many places where pigeons can land, special pins are made so that pigeons simply cannot stop there. In developed countries, pigeon meat is considered exotic or even unpalatable by consumers who consider pigeons a source of unsanitation and urban pests. However, it contains fewer pathogens than meat from other birds, so it is safer for health. For example, pigeons are eaten in Egypt, not out of desperation and lack of food. It is a traditional Bedouin dish, pigeon stuffed with rice. And in the Celestial Empire, 100 million tons of pigeon meat a year are grown on specialized farms. It is sold in supermarkets and cooked in restaurants. In 1988, a Boeing 737-200 was scheduled to fly to Asmara Airport. However, instead, it made a hard landing at Bar Dar Airport just after takeoff. Both engines failed. The reason for the return was a collision with a flock of speckled pigeons. During the emergency landing, a fire broke out. 35 of the 105 people on board died. If we talk about diseases carried by pigeons, the worst are ornithosis, salmonellosis, toxoplasmosis, listeriosis. But be vigilant. Pigeons have another 60 diseases that can be transmitted to humans. In 2017, a man in the United States was bitten by a pigeon while walking in a park. A few days later, he developed symptoms of Lyme disease. The ticks that carry this disease can also be transmitted through bird bites, but there are positives to close proximity. In fact, pigeons have paved the way for humans into space, and they help people in research. They can diagnose cancer, and they are great at art. For example, in the mid-60s, American radio astronomers Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson accidentally found evidence for the Big Bang Theory. As you might have guessed, pigeons weren't the only ones involved. During their observations, they discovered a constant noise that they couldn't explain. At first, the scientists assumed that the noise was caused by pigeon poop that had accumulated on the antenna. They cleaned the antenna, but the noise remained. Eventually, the scientists concluded that the noise was relic radiation left over from the Big Bang and even won a Nobel Prize. Scientists are also asking pressing questions. For example, what happens if a miniature backpack with electronics is placed on the back of a bird? The answer, of course, is obvious. The lab bird would start collecting data on climate change and urban pollution. For example, scientists at the University of Birmingham are using pigeons to monitor air pollution in the UK. There are two facts in favor of pigeons. First, they are cheaper. And secondly, pigeons can fly where drones are not welcome. Perhaps it is thanks to deep data that humans will be able to stop global warming and not become extinct like mammoths. Pigeons can fly at altitudes up to 6,000 feet or higher with an average speed of 77.6 miles per hour. The fastest recorded speed is 92.5 mph. A racing pigeon from Belgium in 2020 was sold at auction for 1.6 million euros. The 2-year-old female, nicknamed New Kim, was initially offered for just 200 euros, but was bought by a bidder from China for a record sum on Sunday. New Kim last raced in 2018. She earned the title of Best Young Bird in Belgium and took early retirement. However, pigeons can usually breed for up to 10 years, so new Kim has many more years of chicks ahead of her. Did you also think it was time to change your profession and master pigeon breeding? The superpower of pigeons is their extraordinary eyesight. Few things can go unnoticed before the unseeing eyes of our heroes. Pigeons are able to see in ultraviolet light, revealing to them a hidden world of various markings and patterns that are invisible to the human eye. For example, to us, a crow may appear to be just a black bird, but to pigeons it has a beautiful purple shimmering coloration. Each bird has its own unique ultraviolet pattern that helps them distinguish between mates. This incredible visual arsenal makes pigeons true artists in the world of colors and hues. Pigeons can even be taught to read. At least they can recognize 4-letter words. Next time we'll ask them to read a script. And if that fails, pigeons can always try themselves as couriers because they are able to memorize several routes. Pigeons are much more intelligent than people tend to think. And in some ways, they will turn out to be even smarter than people themselves. Pigeons are one of the few animals that are able to recognize themselves in the mirror. Scientists conducted such an experiment. They put a mark on the body of a pigeon and put a mirror in front of it. After that, the birds tried to remove this mark, realizing that in the reflection sees exactly himself. Of course, recognizing themselves in the mirror, people are not surprised. Many of us can also repeat this trick, at least on a sober head. It can be much more difficult to recognize the works of great artists and not embarrass yourself in a museum. Pigeons can do it. About 30 years ago, scientists proved that pigeons perfectly distinguish paintings by Monet from works by Picasso. The birds not only memorize these works, but also generalize the information they received. To make the experiment was clean, researchers showed the birds unfamiliar paintings by Renoir and Matisse. But the pigeons easily identified the works and differences in the styles of different artists, even if they had never seen these works before. But the scientists didn't stop there. They trained pigeons to diagnose tumors in medical images. Initially, the pigeons had a 50% accuracy rate in identifying the presence of cancerous tumors. But by learning and consulting with each other, the accuracy of their diagnoses reached an amazing 99%. This is comparable to the work of doctors and surpasses artificial intelligence. Pigeons have also been used in weightlessness research, where they tested how living organisms react to the absence of Earth's gravity. Nikola Tesla was also fond of pigeons. In addition to his research into electricity, the famously eccentric inventor had a strong obsession with pigeons. He was known to go to the park daily to feed them, and even took them home when he found them injured. And one white bird won Tesla's love more than the rest and stayed with him as a friend and pet until his death. But look at this beautiful Nicobar pigeon, for example. It is the largest living pigeon in the world. It is the only living species in the genus Caloinas. The Nicobar pigeon is the closest relative of the now extinct bird, the dodo. They belong to the same family, so the dodo was essentially a flightless ground pigeon. It was about the size of a turkey and had a thick beak and long legs. The dodo was exterminated by humans in the 17th century. So who are pigeons? Evil terrorists or good-natured superheroes? We've shared the arguments for and against pigeons. Now it's your turn to reach a verdict in the deliberation room, that is, in the comments. The main thing when you accuse or justify our heroes, do not forget one fact: pigeons never forget a face.